Hi friends, Shannon here with Cat Scrappiness Creative Crew, here with a super adorable Halloween card. It is one of my favorite cards I've made so far this month. Let me tell you what we're going to use to create this card. First is the spooky boo word. It has the word boo, B-O-O, and a shadow die. And next is the boogie ghosts, and we're going to use just one of the ghosts. And then finally we are using the Crafters Essentials Halloween dies, and I'm going to use this spooky picket fence. I'm die cut 2 of the trees and 1 each of the headstones, and so those are the dies we're going to use. Then we're also going to use some pearl powder in the color emerald, and the brilliant confetti dot sequence in blueberry and emerald, and also some little googly eyes. I don't know if they're moving. They're not moving very well. And so we're going to make this fun shaker card. And I just love the colors. I'm very happy with the way this turned out. So let's get started on creating the card. We're going to start first by ink blending the background panel. I'm using Distress inks in Black Soot, Chip Sapphire, Lucky Clover, and Twisted Citron. And I want to show you, I attempted to, instead of doing the Twisted Citron, using the lemon green colored cardstock and then ink blending the colors around. It just didn't turn out very well, so I'm going to use the white paper. Looks like we have some splatter from my last card on here. We're just going to do ink blend the entire panel so we can get that spooky glow. Yeah, so starting with the Twisted Citron, I have it. Maybe I should make that a little wider. Okay, so I have that off screen, and I'm using a blending brush, and I'm going to ink up the brush and then tap it off of my lid to start with, because I don't want it to get too heavy, and so I'm just starting out real light. Since I'm starting in the center of the cardstock, I don't want to get any streaky blend marks, so I'm starting out real light, just barely holding onto the brush and swirling it around. And after I get a little bit of color, then I'll give it a little more pressure, put some more, get that color coming down a little bit heavier, get some more ink, and start the same. Start out real light, just making kind of a circular shape here with the Twisted Citron, and then give it more pressure. A little more ink. Start real light. And the way that I do my ink blending is I like to go, basically do 2 layers of each color. So next is Lucky Clover, and ink up my brush, tap it off on the lid the first time, because it's going to be, this one's, the ink pad is really juicy, so I'm going to start out real light. Real light, just swirling around. Let that color overlap the Twisted Citron. One of the things that helps to create the best blends is the type of paper that you use. And the paper that I'm using today is Hammermill, and it is 80 pound. So now that I've got some of the ink down, give it a little more pressure, just going around. We're just creating kind of a green colored glow where the ghost is going to be placed. So I inked up my brush again, really light. And I really love the colors, the green with the blue and the black, the way that the background turned out. I'm really happy with these colors. Okay, one more time, a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to speed this up because it's just going to be the same process. Instead of using an ink brush, or a blending brush, I'm going to use, with the chipped sapphire, I'm going to use a sponge dauber and ink up my dauber, and that's because I want this chipped sapphire to come out really dark. So I'm starting from the outside, come in. I'm just going to speed this up so that we're not here all day blending this panel. Okay, now we are going to do some splatter on the background using the pearl powder in the emerald color. I am just going to spray a couple of sprays of water onto my glass mat. Then I'm going to open up the pearl powder and just dunk the opposite end of my paintbrush and kind of scoop a little bit of that emerald powder out. I think we're going to get a little bit more. And mix that up with the end of my paintbrush. Clean that off with a paper towel. And pick that up with the brush end of my paintbrush and just tap the brush onto my finger and let the splatters fly. And one thing about this ink blending, it will smooth out as the ink dries, so it may not look like much now, but it will look better in a few minutes. There we go. Clean off my brush. And clean up this remaining pearl powder on my glass mat. And we are going to set this aside so that can dry. I'm going to clean off my grip mat. Just some water and a microfiber cloth. Get that ink off of there. And yes, the black and the blue ink does stain the grip mat, but it still works perfectly fine. It's just a little loved. Make sure it's dry. Okay. Then we are going to ink our die cuts. I think we'll start with the trees. Now, one of the trees is kind of janky because I'm going to only use the top portion of the tree, so I wasn't concerned about that. I used a piece of scrap cardstock to cut that tree out. And I'm going to use my paper pouncers to apply the ink, and this is walnut stain ink, and it's distress ink, not the oxide. And I'm just going to blot that on there really heavy. Make sure I get the sides of that die cut. Okay, there's that one. Oh, I guess I'm gonna just turn this around and do the other one. Just inking up the pouncer and pounce that ink right on there. I'm not worried about there being any kind of shading. I just want it to go on really heavy because it is a night scene. Okay, that looks good. Set these aside to dry also. Clean up my mat again. And what's next? We'll save the fence for last since that's black. Let's do the headstones and save the sentiment for last. And I'm just going to leave the ghost stark white. I'm not going to do any ink blending on that. The example card, I had used some Copic markers to kind of give it a green glow, and I wasn't really happy with the way that that turned out, so I'm just going to leave it white on this card. Okay, the next ink color is Hickory Smoke, and this I'm using the sponge dauber. Just cover this headstone with the ink, give it a nice coat. Not doing anything fancy, though I am going to come in with some black ink and give it some distressing on the sides or the edges with my finger dauber. So with black soot, I'm just inking up my finger dauber. Grab my headstones and flick the ink across the edges of the headstone or the die cut. There's one. Ink up my dauber again. Okay, that looks good. So we're done with the Hickory Smoke and the dauber. Okay, next we are going to do the shadow for the sentiment, and we are going to use Chip Sapphire and my sponge dauber. And here I'm just going to cover the entire thing with the Chip Sapphire, and then we'll come in with the black soot and blend out the outer perimeter of it. There we go. Done with that. And then black soot. Just come along the outside of that. To come in a little further than that. Just leave that center, that dark blue. There we go. And we're done with that one. And next we'll do the picket fence, the spooky picket fence, and I'm going to use a sponge dauber to do this, and I'm using the black soot ink on the fence also, and just going to pounce that ink on there. Whoops. Just keep doing this until it's completely covered with the ink. It's really nice that the grip mat holds onto the die cut, so I don't have to get my fingers in there and get them any more inky than they already are. Make sure that edges are nice and inked. Just kind of give it a little twisting motion when I press down. And there's that. And put away my ink dauber. And we're going to clean this up again after I get my die cut off of there. Okay, and finally we have the letters for our sentiment. And we are going to color those with the greens, starting with the Twisted Citron. I'm going to use a pouncer for this also. Cover them completely with the Twisted Citron. Really heavy coat of the ink. And then, I can't remember if I used a, I think I'm going to use a blending brush for the Lucky Clover. Ink that up, and I'm just going to come up from the bottom and give it kind of an ombre look. There we go. And that will smooth out after the ink dries, or as the ink dries. Okay, and let's see, on the example that I created, I had used the finger dauber with the black soot to distress the edges of these letters, so we'll do the same thing. Just flicking that color on the edge of the die cuts. There we go. One more. There we go. So, right now I'm going to clean this up and then we'll get to assembling the card. I am very sorry, but I forgot to turn my camera on. So I am going to explain to you what you've missed out on. Not much. I've gone ahead and, excuse me, and glued down the picket fence and the trees and I angled them so that it looks like it's just part of the tree coming out instead of the entire tree. So like two different trees. You understand what I mean. And I've also put double-sided tape on the back of the card panel, and I put double-sided tape on the back of the rest of the die cuts. What we're going to do is create a shaker card, and this is just a piece of plastic that a stamp set came in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going excuse me, I'm just going to cut this a little bit larger than the size of my card base. And this side is weird. It's all bent. So cutting that. So there's a, so it's larger than the card base, and then this side where the seam is still attached, I'm going to cut that. And then I'll end up with two pieces. So I can save one for another shaker card in the future. And this one, we are going to flip our card base over and remove the paper from the release paper from 3 of the sides of the card. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off screen. Then what I'm going to do is make sure that this is exposed on all 3 sides, and I'm going to bend the plastic onto the double-sided tape and press that down. Then come on one of the other sides with the exposed adhesive and do the same thing. Press that down, and then the final side, and press that down. Now there'll be a little bit of bulk where the corners overlap, so I usually just take my scissors and snip that little bit of extra off. And we are going to take our shaker bits, and I mentioned before they're the Brilliant Confetti Dot Sequins in Emerald and Blueberry. And what we're going to do is just dump them into the little pocket we created. I'm trying to get this so you can see what I'm doing while I'm doing it. Okay, there's the green, and then the blueberry. Do the same thing. Open up that pocket and dump some of the blueberry in. There we go. Lots of shaker bits. Now we can remove the release paper on that last strip of double-sided tape. Fold this over. And then I snip off that extra bulk from the plastic overlapping. There we go. And there is our shaker card. Now, I don't know if you noticed that I have my my fence is kind of floating in midair. Well, because of the placement of the die cuts, you won't notice that there isn't ground underneath the fence. So I will show you what I mean right now. Whoops. Dump those shaker bits towards the opposite side so I can tape down the rest of the die cuts. So I'm going to start, let's start with the ghost. We kind of want him to be just above the fence, but in the middle of the glow. So I'm going to remove the release paper from the double-sided tape, and I do that, I use the double-sided tape because of the plastic. I also add liquid glue so that I can glue down the ends of the die cut, and so there's nothing flapping around. Oops, a little in the middle. Oops. Okay, I'm going to turn this upside down and put my ghost right about there and press the ghost down. And that tape will grab immediately, so I won't have to hold on waiting for the glue to dry. And next we're going to do our sentiment, remove the release paper, and add some glue. Have this just above the bottom so that we can see the shaker bits when they're underneath the sentiment. There we go. And now the headstones. And we're just about finished with this card. Isn't it the cutest? I love these ghosts, are adorable. There were, I believe, a total of 5 ghosts in the set. There's also a witch's hat and a lollipop, a bow tie, and a broomstick. And some of the ghosts have, their hands are kind of cut around the perimeter of them so you can tuck things into the hands. So let's put this one right about here. Whoops, grabbed onto that. A little bit janky, but that's okay. It's a handmade card. And then after we glue down this final headstone, there's one last step that one last thing I'm going to add, and that's the googly eyes, as if there's little critters in the night. I'm going to put them over in the darkest areas of the card, around the perimeter where the black soot is. And I think it just looks really neat. It looks like little critters in the night, where you can't see them, kind of like raccoons when you just see their eyes glowing. So there we go. There's that, our little shaker, and let's get some googly eyes. I think I'm going to use 4 of them, and these are the 5mm size googly eyes. So I'll get just 4 of those. And I'm just going to put some eyes over here by this tree on the side. And remove the little release paper from the back of those. I put some glue down also, just as a precaution, so they don't go flying off when somebody shakes the card. There we go, there's one. Press that down. Oops, are you gonna stay? There you go. And another one. It's kind of hard to get these release papers off. I am having a time with these. So I think what I'm going, I have to get this one off. I've already got the glue down. Let's try another one. This is... There, I think I've got it now. There we go. And then these 2 I'm just going to set over here on the opposite side to give you an idea what the what they would look like glued down, so I don't have to spend the next half hour while you wait gluing down googly eyes. There's one, and there's the other one. Put those closer together. Maybe put those down by the headstone. There we go. So those are, that is the card. Oops. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. If you would, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment if you have any questions. I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.